The stars outside Caleb's shuttle glimmered like quiet witnesses as the engines hummed through space. Varel sat in silence beside him, her pale eyes fixed ahead though she saw nothing. Her hands rested in her lap, still clutching the bag she had never let go of. The silence between them wasn't uncomfortable, but it was thick. Like the weight of everything she had lost still lingered in the cabin air. Caleb glanced at her. "We'll be landing soon," he said. She nodded slowly. "What is it like?" "Alaris 3?" He thought for a moment. "It's green, really green. Tall trees, glowing lakes. Quiet most days. And the wind doesn't feel like it's trying to hurt you. And people?" she asked. "Some kind, some just tired. But no. One there knows who you are." That made her pause. "Good," she whispered. "I don't want to be the princes they left behind." He wanted to say more, but something in her voice told him she wasn't ready yet. When they landed, the doors opened to soft winds and purple skies. Bluegrass bent gently under the breeze, and the twin moons hung low above the trees like patient guardians. The shuttle ramp lowered, and Caleb stepped out, then turned to help her. Vare hesitated at the edge, her foot hovering. "It feels alive," she said. "It is," Caleb replied. "Take your time." She stepped down slowly. The ground was soft beneath her boots. Her head tilted, listening to the wind, the trees, the sound of a small bird whistling in the distance. Her fingers reached out until they touched Caleb's arm. "Show me," she said. His cabin stood at the edge of a valley, built from old wood and reinforced with scavenged steel panels. A row of wind chimes sang softly at the door. Solar panels on the roof shimmered under the twin moon's light. It wasn't a palace, but it was home. Inside, he guided her around carefully. "Table's here," he said. "2 steps to your left, wall smooth. Heaters near the corner, but don't touch the top, it gets hot." She nodded with each instruction, memorizing the shape of her new world. "And your cot?" he said, guiding her hand to the edge. "Soft blanket. Warm sheets, nothing fancy." She sat down carefully, her hands brushing the fabric. "This is more than I had before." That night, Caleb made a simple stew-root vegetables, spice just enough. Varel ate slowly, silently. The glow had not returned to her skin, not yet. But she didn't seem as cold as before. After dinner, she sat near the heater, a blanket wrapped around her. Her voice came quietly. "I used to sleep on crystal floors," she said. "They reflected light from the stars." Every breath echoed. "Sounds fancy," Caleb said. "It was lonely." They didn't speak again for a while. Hours passed. Caleb repaired old tools by lamplight, but something strange caught his eye. He turned slowly. Varel single quotes as skin dull silver since the station was glowing faintly, just a shimmer of gold under her throat along her cheeks. It wasn't bright, but it was there. "You're glowing," he said gently. She didn't flinch. "I can feel it," she replied. "It hasn't happened since before. Zerellans glow when we feel something strong. Safety, joy, love." "What do you feel now?" She turned her head toward him. "A warmth I forgot existed." The glow faded slowly, but something had shifted. 2 nights later, Caleb began working on something new. On his workbench, he scattered wires, sound discs, energy coils.
Varel sat nearby, silent but curious. "What are you building?"
she asked. "A sound map," he said. "A what?" He looked up. "A way for you to see. Kind of. It sends soft sound pulses. When it bounces back, you'll hear where walls and objects are. Like sonar." She tilted her head. "You're making this for me?" "Yeah." She was quiet for a long time. "Why?" she asked softly. He stopped working. "My sister was blind, born that way. She used to say she didn't need people to carry her, just help her walk." "What happened to her?" She died, young, sickness no one could cure, but she always smiled. Always. Veryl's grip on the blanket tightened. She didn't speak again until the next day. In the morning, he handed her the finished device. Small, round, it fit perfectly in her palm. A single button glowed softly. "Press it," he said. A soft ping echoed, then another. She turned her head. The sound changed. She stepped forward just once. Then again. "I can feel it," she whispered, "where things are." "How?" "Far." "How close?" Caleb stood nearby, ready to catch her if she stumbled. But she did and single quotes to Dot. She walked across the room, turned, walked back smiling. "You're glowing again," he said quietly. She looked down. "Maybe. I'm remembering who I was." That evening, while the stars stretched wide above the trees, Caleb sat outside. He saw her through the window, standing tall in the center of the room. Her skin shimmered with quiet gold, her echo map. Pulsing gently. But somewhere far off in the forest beyond the valley, a valley. Blinking red light appeared. Caleb froze. It wasn't from his colony, wasn't part of the grid. He raised his old binoculars. Heart tightening. It was a landing beacon. Someone was here. Someone was watching. The blinking red light in the forest did not belong to Caleb's world. It pulsed steadily, like a heartbeat deep within the trees, far beyond the edge of his property line, just beyond where the colony sensors stopped scanning. Too regular to be a storm beacon, too low to be a satellite drift, and far too quiet for a friend. Caleb stared at it through his binoculars, his breath shallow. Whatever had landed, it wasn't broadcasting any ID. No cal sign, no human registry, no colonial markings. And that meant only one thing: someone didn't want to be found. He lowered the binoculars slowly and looked back toward the cabin. Inside, behind the warm windows, Varel stood at the table, her fingers carefully folding the blanket Caleb had given her. Her soft gold glow still flickered faintly along her arms, lighting the edges of her silver skin. She had no idea what waited out there. He stepped inside quietly, locking the door behind him. "Caleb?" She turned her head. "You're walking softly," he hesitated. "You notice everything. Only the important things," she said. "Your voice is steady, but your heart just changed. It's faster." He exhaled. "No use lying. There's a ship," he said, "in the forest." She was silent for a beat. "Then, too, is it them?" she asked. "Could be mercenaries. Maybe bounty hunters. Someone's looking for something. Or someone." She lowered herself slowly into the chair, by the heater, her hands resting in her lap. Her glow dimmed. "They found me again," she whispered. "Not yet," he said firmly. "And they won't, not if we're ready." The next morning came gray and cold. Mist clung to the grass like ghost fingers. Caleb got up early. He moved with quiet purpose, checking solar fences, reinforcing window seals, placing motion sensors in the trees like eyes watching the dark. He didn't tell Varel everything, but she knew. She helped where she could. Her ears were sharper than any machine. She placed her hands on the cabin floor, her fingers reading the creaks in the wood. "Someone walking here will echo loud," she said. "Reinforce this section, and here, under the back window, it hollows. They'll hear it." He nodded, fixing each flaw with quiet gratitude. That night, while he soldered wires and calibrated an emergency beacon, Varel sat near the fire, legs tucked beneath her, sound map in her lap. The glow had returned to her cheeks, but it was nervous, flickering, fragile. "Caleb," she said quietly, "do you want to know how I lost my sight?" He stopped, set the wires down, sat across from her. "Only if you want to tell me," she nodded. "The Krell came at night. They moved like smoke. My people thought we were too strong to fall. We had shields, weapons, arrogance. She paused. My father told me to hide in the lower chambers, but I ran to the command tower. I thought I could help. Then the blast came. Her hand reached up to touch her face, just beneath her left eye. I remember the light, then fire, then nothing. She looked toward him, though her pale eyes could not see. They told me I was lucky to live, but after that, no one looked at me the same, not even my own blood. Caleb didn't speak. He couldn't. They saw me as a crack in the empire, she said. So they left me behind. They were wrong, he whispered. She leaned her head back against the wall, exhaling slowly. You're the first person who saw me and didn't flinch. Later that night, after she'd gone to rest, Caleb sat near the door, holding an old plasma pistol he hadn't used in years. His hands were steady. His breath wasn't. The blinking light in the woods had vanished, but that only made things worse. The unknown was moving. A motion. Alarm beeped once. Faint. 2 clicks from the northeast sensor. Movement. Caleb stood instantly, scanning the forest through his scope. Nothing. Just fog. Then a shadow. Then another. 3. No sound. No signal. No words. They were cloaked. Advanced. Their armor shimmered like oil under moonlight bending light. Breaking pattern. Caleb single quotes S stomach sank. Mercs. Zarellan hired, most likely. Elite class. Royal silencer units, and they were headed straight for the cabin. He stepped back inside quickly, shutting the door and locking it. He moved to the back hallway, opening the floor panel that led to the storm cellar. Varel, he said softly, waking her. They're here. She sat up instantly, no fear in her voice. Only focus. Where? Forest edge? 3 of them. Could be more behind. I'll help, she said. Double quotes no. You need to hide. No, she interrupted. I won't run. Again, he hesitated. Then handed her something new, a second, more advanced echo map bracelet. It's stronger, deeper ping. Faster pulse. Tracks movement. She strapped it to her wrist like it was part of her skin. He placed a small blade in her palm. I hope you don't have to use it, she smiled faintly. We trained in blades when we were 5. Even the blind, he blinked. You could have told me that earlier. You never asked, she said. They moved quietly into the cellar. The space was small, lined with crates, an emergency tunnel carved into the rock. Caleb checked the backup generator, armed 2 shock mines, then turned to her. If anything happens, we fight together, she said. He gave a small nod. Together. Above them, the wind shifted. The mercenaries were close now. Silent steps, metal whispers. A storm was coming. But for the first time in years, Varel didn't feel helpless. She felt ready. The first blast didn't come from the front door. It came from the sidewall, silent, sudden, and strong enough to shake the floorboards like thunder. Caleb grabbed the edge of the cellar entrance, steadying himself as dust fell from the rafters. Above, somewhere in the main cabin, the outer panel had caved in. Something had hit it hard, likely a charge spike or plasma cutter burst, not a warning shot. A strike. Varel stood near the bottom of the ladder, her blade in hand, echo map glowing faintly on her wrist. Her pale eyes were steady, her breathing calm. The golden light on her silver skin flickered brighter as the danger drew near. No longer just fear, but readiness. They're testing the walls, Caleb said, checking for weaknesses. Then they're close, she replied. 3, maybe 4. They move like I remember, tight formation, minimal sound. He stared. You can hear them? She tilted her head. No, I can feel them. The air around them, the way it bends. Caleb activated the emergency comms beacon and pushed the distress signal to the colony outpost. The screen flashed, response. Estimated 40 minutes. Too long, he muttered. Above, another impact, the sound of metal buckling. Then footsteps, 3 sets, maybe more, moving across the cabin's outer deck, slow, coordinated. One of them scanned the perimeter. Soft pulse brushing through the walls like a heartbeat. Caleb grabbed his rifle and turned to Varel. You stay here. If they breach, fall back through the tunnel. It leads to the ridge. Wait for me. No, she said quietly, lifting her chin. I'll fight. Varel, they left me behind once, she said, her voice calm but razor sharp. I won't be erased again. Without waiting for a reply, she climbed the ladder. By the time Caleb followed her, she was already standing in the center of the room, her blade angled low, her echo map pinging in rapid pulses. Golden white lines flickered across her arms, the glow building as if her body remembered what it meant to stand tall. Then the door exploded inward. A flash grenade rolled across the floor, erupting with a shriek of white light. Caleb threw up. His arm. Varel didn't blink. The first mercenary stepped through the smoke tunnel, armored in mirror black plating. His helmet glinted like obsidian, and a short-barreled plasma rifle hummed in his hands. He pointed it at Caleb. But before he could fire, a streak of golden motion sliced through the air. Varel. She spun into him like lightning, her blade catching the rifle and twisting it free. Her movements were swift, silent, precise. She couldn't see him, but she didn't need to. Her body listened to every shift in weight, every breath, every vibration. The merc tried to react. Too late. Varel struck his chest plate with a sonic pulse from her wrist, knocking him backwards. Caleb dove behind the table, grabbing the fallen weapon. Another mercenary burst through the broken wall faster than the first, aiming directly at Varel. Caleb fired a shot, hitting the edge of the attacker's leg armor. Sparks flew. The merc fell to a knee, weapon slipping from his grip. Varel didn't hesitate. She stepped in, spun low, and swept his legs from under him. Then she stood over him. Blade raised, he froze. The third merc stopped in the doorway. Caleb's weapon aimed at him. Varel's glow burned bright across the room. He ran. The cabin fell silent again. Caleb lowered the weapon slowly, breathing hard. You, he looked at her, stunned. You lit up the room like a star. Varel's body shimmered with brilliant white and gold light. Her breath was steady. Her eyes, though blind, seemed filled with power. This is what Zarellan queens were trained to do, she said. Glow, not for show, but for survival. Light was never just beauty. It was a weapon. And a warning. You never told me, Caleb said. You never asked, she said again. The same faint smile on her lips. Suddenly, her knees buckled. He caught her before she hit the floor. The glow dimmed slightly, her skin still warm to the touch. Fine, she whispered. Just tired. I haven't used that much energy in years. He held her gently, brushing silver strands of hair from her face. You were amazing, she leaned into his shoulder. I just wanted to protect you the way you protected me. His chest tightened. You did more than that. 40 minutes later, human patrol shuttles arrived. Colony guards stormed in, weapons drawn, only to find 2 unconscious mercenaries tied and disarmed, one still moaning from a cracked helmet. The third was already long gone, retreating into the forest's edge. Colonel Bren arrived shortly after, his sharp eyes taking in the damage, the smoke, the injuries. He turned to Caleb. What happened here? Caleb spoke quietly. No bragging, no embellishment, just truth. Beside him stood Varel, tall, silver, her glow faint but unmistakable. Bren stared at her. That wasn't just an attack, he said. Slowly. That was a political strike, Varel nodded. They sent silencer units. Not just mercenaries. Zarellan High Circle Command. They were meant to erase you, Caleb said. Again, she replied. Bren sighed. We'll take them in, question them. But if what you say is true, more may come. Let them, she said. Caleb glanced at her, a mix of awe and fear. He saw not the abandoned royal he met on the station. He saw a queen who chose to fight. The station floated silently above the desert moon of Kelleran, a cold shell orbiting a broken world. Inside, its long gray halls were packed with noise refugees speaking in dozens of languages. Children crying, machines humming, but there was one corner that stayed quiet. A girl sat alone near the far wall, unmoving, untouched by the chaos around her. She had silver skin that no longer shimmered, and long white hair pulled into a messy braid. Her pale eyes stared forward, empty and blind. Even without her crown, the air around her still felt royal, like it remembered something she no longer believed. A torn cloak barely covered her shoulders. Her hands clutched a small worn bag, the last thing she had carried from her world before. It fell. That's her, someone whispered nearby. The blind Zerolan princess. She doesn't even glow anymore. Useless now. Can't see. Can't fight. No one wants her. The voices passed, low and sharp, like blades wrapped in gossip. No one dared speak to her directly. Some feared the broken royal. Others simply didn't care. To them, she was a ghost of a dead empire, waiting to be erased. Caleb Ward walked past the hall, dragging a worn supply crate behind him. His boots were stained with oil, his jumpsuit covered in dust from another repair shift. He wasn't anyone important, just a human technician from the colony. On Alaris 3, but his eyes noticed what others ignored. His gaze lingered on the silent girl in the corner. She hadn't moved once. He slowed as two station officers stood nearby, speaking in clipped voices. She's been here for 4 cycles, one said. No sponsor, no claim. Protocol says we ship her out. Outer system care camp? The other asked. Yeah. Overcrowded. Low resources. She probably won't last long there. Even royalty doesn't matter anymore. Caleb frowned, his hands tightening on the crate's edge. Something in their tone felt wrong. Too final. Too cold. He stepped closer. Excuse me, he said. Quietly. The girl, what's going to happen to her? The officers turned. One shrugged. She's blind. No family. The Zerolan High Circle disowned her after the fall. Number credits. No glow. Nothing. She has no one? She had a bounty on her once, the second muttered. Still might. Nobody's checked in weeks. Caleb looked again at the girl. She didn't flinch, didn't speak. But her head tilted slightly in his direction. She was listening. Can I talk to her? He asked. Go ahead, the first officer said. Not like she bites. Caleb approached slowly, kneeling beside her so his voice wouldn't sound like a command. Hi, he said gently. I'm Caleb. I'm human. From Alaris 3. The girl turned toward him, blind eyes steady. I know, she whispered. Her voice was soft, almost melodic. I heard your heart before your voice, he blinked. You heard my heart? I may be blind, she said, but I still see in other ways. Her fingers trembled as she reached out, hesitant. Caleb took her hand carefully. Her skin was cold, but her grip tightened once he didn't let go. What's your name? He asked. Varel, she said. But names mean little now. I am nothing. No, Caleb said. You're not. He stood up, walking over to the nearby terminal. I want to sponsor her, he told the officers. They stared. You sure? Yeah. Papers were signed. Authorizations confirmed. A long silence passed as Caleb returned to Varel's side. He helped her up gently. She moved slowly, carefully, her hands searching Dot as they walked together toward his shuttle. One of the guards leaned over and muttered, You're making a mistake, human. The bounty's still out there. Caleb didn't look back inside the ship. He guided her to the co-pilot seat. She ran her fingers along the controls like she was memorizing them by touch. You can rest now, he said, but Varel only sat still, her head turned toward the stars. Her glow had not returned. But her story had just begun. The moonlight fell in pale ribbons across the cabin floor as Varel stood by the window, unmoving. Though her eyes could not see the forest, her body tensed at every breeze, every creak in the trees. The mercenaries were gone, but the silence they left behind was louder than any weapon. You're walking differently again, she said softly. Caleb froze mid-step. He was carrying a bowl of broth, but her voice stopped him like a gate. You're quieter, slower, she said. You check the doors more. You breathe shallower. He set the bowl down. You're not wrong. There's more coming, isn't there? Caleb sat beside her. Yeah, the interrogation had confirmed it. The mercs weren't freelancers. They were Royal Silencer units deployed in secret, backed by private orders from inside the Zarellan High Circle. And the bounty on Varel's life hadn't been withdrawn, it had been increased, they said. If you live, you'll become a beacon, Caleb whispered. And that scared them more than war ever did. Varel didn't speak. Her head tilted slightly toward the trees, her fingers tapping a slow rhythm against the window's edge. I was taught to be a symbol, she said. But the moment I stopped glowing, they called me a liability, a stain. He looked at her. You're not a stain. You're a survivor. No, she said. I'm a threat now. Because I'm still here. Outside, a small transport ship descended quietly onto the far side of the garden. Caleb's hand went to his belt, but he relaxed when the ship's emblem lit up human colony insignia. From the outpost, a man stepped out. Tall, lean, gray hair under a black cap. Colonel Bren. He approached the cabin slowly, holding a data slate and a hardened expression. We intercepted a second message. Bren said, encrypted, Zarellan dialect military grade. Caleb nodded slowly. More mercs? Worse, Bren said. This time it's a strike team, elite, 5 to 7 members. High-tech equipment, deep stealth. They're not here to scout. They're here to finish it. Varel didn't move. Her glow dimmed slightly, her breath tightening. How long do we have? Caleb asked. Less than 48 hours, Bren replied. We'll send drones, but they know how to hide from us. I won't lie to you. If you stay here, you'll be on your own. You're saying we should run, Caleb said. I'm saying you should decide who you are, protectors or targets. He handed Caleb a distress beacon, small, black, with a red cap. Use this if it gets bad, he said. We'll come if we can. Then Bren turned and walked back to his ship. It lifted off silently, disappearing into the early night sky. Caleb stood in the doorway long after the sound had faded. Varel came up beside him. You didn't ask me if I want to run. Didn't have to, Caleb said. You won't. Neither. Will you? She replied. They spent the rest of the night preparing. Caleb reinforced the door frames with steel bars and pulse locks. Solar panels were routed to charge the shield battery instead of the cabin lights. Floor panels were removed and turned into hidden compartments for emergency weapons. Varel walked the perimeter barefoot, her echo map activated, listening to the ground, feeling for weak spots, creaking roots, loose soil. She mapped the terrain not with her eyes, but with the memory of vibration and space. Here, she said, tapping a spot just beyond the garden. They'll try to come through. Here, it echoes differently. Softer, shallow rock. It'll give if they use charges. You hear all that? Caleb asked, impressed. Queens don't just sit on thrones, she replied. We're trained to know everything beneath us. They built spike traps near the ridge, laid energy mines between the outer trees. Caleb upgraded the echo map into a dual-band device that pulsed both sonic and subsonic waves, allowing her to feel movement through walls. Inside the cabin, Caleb carved new compartments into the furniture. Extra ammo under the bench, spare blades under the floor. A backup pistol above the shower vent. Varel helped him count every weapon, every battery cell, every exit route. Then, as dawn crept over the valley, she finally sat down, her glow dimmed. But calm. "You could have turned me in," she said. Caleb looked up. "Why would I?" "For safety, for money, for a quiet life." He knelt in front of her. "I don't want quiet if it means losing you." Varel reached into her satchel, pulled out a small object. It shimmered faintly silver and crystal, shaped like a leaf surrounded by flame. "The last crest of House Verath," she said. "My family symbol. It survived the fire. I kept it when I had nothing else." She placed it in his hand. "Why?" "Give it to me?" he asked. "Because I choose you," she said. "Not as a shield, not as a soldier, but as the one who didn't look away." He closed his hand around the crest, but outside, beyond the garden, beyond the line of traps, the forest whispered. The sun had barely risen, and the motion sensor flared red. 5 heat signatures. No ID. No broadcast. Caleb grabbed his rifle. "Here," he said. Varel stood up, her glow returning, slow and strong like embers ready to ignite. "Then let them see what we've become," she said. And the cabin grew still again, waiting to catch fire. The first sound was silence, not the peaceful kind, but the sharpened stillness that wraps around the world just before something breaks. Outside Caleb's cabin, the wind had stopped. Even the birds in the trees had fallen quiet. Inside the key, temperature dipped slightly, as if the air itself was holding its breath. The motion sensors on the wall blinked red 5 heat signatures. Fast, circling, no ID tags. No warning, no sound. Caleb stood by the window, eyes fixed through the long scope of his rifle. The trees moved, but not with the breeze. Figures darted between trunks, black-clad, low to the ground. Their armor shimmered unnaturally, cloaking them in the way oil hides in water. Varel was already by the front door, her wrist echo map activated, her silver skin glowing faintly, a soft golden light pulsing along her arms and throat. She held number crown, no robe, only a blade, and her resolve. "Positions?" she asked quietly. Caleb adjusted the scope. 2 northeast, 1 flanking west, 1 behind the shed, 5th one. "Cloaked? Sniper? Patterns?" "Military, coordinated, professional." She nodded slowly. "Then they are Zarellan black." "Wardens." Caleb's eyes narrowed. "What are those?" "Our empire's final answer," she said. "When words failed, when diplomacy broke, they sent black wardens. Ghosts in armor, trained to kill without leaving proof." "Great," Caleb muttered, loading a new charge into his rifle. "We're up against ghost assassins." "Not ghosts," she said, stepping into the center of the room. "Cowards with expensive toys." Outside, the first blast came like thunder, an energy grenade thrown at the solar fence. Blue light flared and the shield cracked briefly. The second came from the west side, hitting the cabin wall just above the old window. Dust rained from the ceiling. Caleb ducked instinctively. "Shields holding," he said. "For now." Varel moved to the back hall. Her echo pulses increased in tempo, mapping each inch of the space in her mind. Veil breach in under 10 minutes. Caleb armed the fallback tunnel, placed 2 more shock mines under the floorboards, and checked his sidearm. "Varel, if this goes bad, you run." She turned to him, her glow brighter now, edges shifting from gold to white. "Aye." Didn't survive the end of my empire just to die alone in a forest. You won't, he said. Not alone. Then the front wall exploded. Wood and steel shattered inward as two black wardens burst through in a synchronized strike. Caleb fired instantly, hitting the left one in the leg. The second moved faster, leaping over debris, but Varel was already moving. Her blade met his rifle mid-air, sparks flying. She twisted, bent low, and sent a pulse through the echo dash map. The sonic wave hit him square in the chest, knocking him back. Caleb ducked as a shot from outside pierced the wall near his head. Sniper! He yelled. Varel rolled to cover, then activated her pulse beacon. A bubble of sound and light erupted from her body, waves echoing off every wall. She pointed. Sniper, tree line, 20 meters, slight right. Caleb nodded. One clean shot through the window he fired. Silenced. A body fell. 3 left. Varel said. The cabin shook again, this time from the back. The final 2 wardens charged through the weakened door. Caleb turned, but they were too fast. One fired a gravity net. He tried to dodge. Too late. The net hit him hard, electricity crackling, pinning him to the wall. Muscles locked. Breath stuck in his throat. Run, he choked. Go. Don't come for me. Varel stood still in the center of the room. Her glow had changed. Now white hot, nearly blinding. The air around her pulsed with heat. No, she said. I won't leave you. Not again. She lifted both hands. Her echo map glowed violently. Pulses fired outward in perfect rings of sound, disorienting. The attackers. One staggered. The other raised a weapon. Varel moved like lightning. She threw her blade. Not wild. Not hopeful. Perfect. It hit the gravity net emitter square on. The device shattered. Caleb dropped to the floor, gasping, the net dissolving into static. I'm free. He shouted. She turned toward the nearest attacker, her eyes still. Blind, but glowing now with something deeper than sight. Her entire body lit up like a living star. You came to erase me, she whispered, but I was never your shadow. I was your sun. The light burst outward. Not an explosion, an eruption of energy, light, sound, and emotion. It swept across the room, catching the attackers mid-stride. One screamed. The other dropped their weapon. The door blew open. They ran. Everything went quiet again. Caleb rose slowly, coughing, his legs shaky. The floor was scorched. The air hot. The light dimmed. Varel stood in the center, swaying. He rushed forward, catching her just as she collapsed. I'm okay, she whispered. Just tired. He held her close. You saved me. We saved each other, she said. Outside. The trees were still, but above them a colony drone hovered, its lenses glowing, recording, streaming. And across the stars, eyes were watching. The sun rose over Alaris 3 slowly that morning, casting warm golden light across the valley, but the cabin stood wounded. Its walls were scorched. The door hung broken. The floor was marked by the aftermath of fire and power, but inside, there was peace. Caleb sat on the floor beside Varel, her head resting against his shoulder. She had not spoken since the battle ended. Her glow had faded to a gentle shimmer. Her breaths came slow but steady. He looked at her not with fear or pity or even awe. He looked at her the way he had the first time, as someone who deserved to be seen. When she finally stirred, her fingers brushed lightly against his arm. Are you hurt? She whispered. Only in the places that don't matter, he replied. She smiled softly. A soft buzz came from the cabin terminal. Caleb stood. Checked the feed. A message from the colony governor. Urgent. It wasn't just the patrol that had responded. The drone's footage of Varel's light, her stand, her strength, it had spread. Not just to human networks, but across interstellar channels. Encrypted lines, rogue broadcasts, Zyrellan frequencies. The galaxy had seen her, the one they left behind. 3 days later, the Colony Council called for a public meeting. The hall was packed. Humans, aliens, journalists, former soldiers, farmers, engineers, children. Everyone came to see the girl who glowed. Varel stood at the center, not in royal robes, not in armor, just a simple blue dress, the same one Caleb had repaired for her after the fire. Her silver skin glowed faintly but steadily. Her pale eyes stared forward, unblinking. "I was born a princess," she began, "in halls made of crystal, under skies shaped by power. But the moment I lost my sight, they said I was no longer worthy of the light. The room was silent. I was cast out, hunted, forgotten. I became a rumor, a shadow. And then I was found not by warriors, not by royalty, but by a human who fixed broken things." Caleb stood at the edge of the crowd, quiet. He did not ask what I could offer. He did not fear my scars. He gave me space, time, and warmth. She lifted her hand. The echo map on her wrist shimmered. Her glow pulsed softly. "I do not speak today as a ruler. I speak as someone who survived. And I ask for no crown, only peace, and the right to choose who I am." A beat of silence. Then a single clap. Then another. Then the room rose, one by one, and the sound of applause filled the sky. In the weeks that followed, messages poured in from across the stars. Zrellon refugees, distant outposts, old scientists, wounded soldiers, alien children who had never known their homeland, all wrote the same thing. "We thought you were gone, but you are still here. And if you are still glowing, then maybe we can too." They called her not princess, not commander, but glowkeeper. A symbol not of power, but of light returned. One afternoon, a sleek silver ship landed quietly outside the cabin. Caleb stepped onto the porch as the hatch opened. A man descended, tall, silver-skinned, sharp-eyed. Behind him were 2 ceremonial guards. He bowed. "Varel of House Verith," he said, "the High Circle has met. They now believe it was wrong to abandon you. They offer restoration, position, influence. You may return." Varel stepped from the cabin, her glow steady, her presence unshaken. "They want a queen?" she asked. "No," he said. "They want a symbol, to silence the shame of your exile." She turned toward Caleb. "And what do I have here?" she asked softly. Caleb didn't answer. He didn't have to. She turned back to her cousin. "Tell them I found something better than their throne." "What's that?" he asked. "Truth, love, and a home." She turned and walked away, never looking back. That evening, Caleb brought her to the center of the garden. A round device sat on a stone pedestal. It pulsed softly like a heartbeat made of light. "What is it?" she asked. "I call it a light core," he said. "Made from the crystal left behind after the attack. Fused it with your ecotech." He placed her hand on it. It pulsed again, blue, gold, white, and then, so did she. Her glow erupted not in violence but in joy. It washed over the trees, the sky, the valley. And in that moment, for the first time, she felt not just remembered, but reborn. "Why does it do that?" she asked, her voice breathless. Caleb smiled. "Because it responds to you. It always has." "But why you?" He stepped closer. "Maybe because I never saw you as broken." She turned to him, glowing from within. "And maybe," she whispered, "you were always part of my light." She placed something in his hand. The Zyrellan crest, silver and crystal. "This is sacred," he said. "So is what you gave me." She replied. He looked at her. "What did I give you?" She reached out, placing her forehead gently against his. "Love," she said, "and the courage to shine again." Months passed. Refugees began to arrive. Not with weapons, but with dreams. They built homes, gardens, libraries, new cities. Not a kingdom, a community. And at its center stood the girl who once sat forgotten in a corner of the stars. She was blind, but her light guided them all. And beside her always stood the human who had first taken her hand in the dark and said, "You're not nothing." On a quiet night, under the twin moons of Alaris III, Caleb and Varel stood at the edge of the garden. The light core pulsed gently behind them. She reached for his hand. "It's strange," she said. "I spent so long in darkness, but now I glow." "Because you're loved," he whispered. She smiled. "And now," she said, "we all will." And above them, the stars blinked slowly back to life.